And money's not everything. I very much believe money's a byproduct of all the. You've heard me say, my paycheck has always been a direct result of the amount of personal development that I'm doing.
Yeah,
and
it's a metric.
It's a metric, and it doesn't necessarily mean, to your point, that you got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you got to eat raw liver or whatever it is. If that's what you do, I fucking give you all the respect in the world, because that shit's not easy.
And you can get real specific and just dive in and build a niche audience or a niche audience.
A niche.
Niche. I don't know what to say. I'm kind of on the fence, dude. Is it
I like niche
or is it niche?
I like niche
Because I like niche
French, or
niche. Niche.
I was closing a deal up in Nephi. Was it 2 nights ago? Mm-hmm. And they had their entry area, and I was like, "What do you guys call this? Call it your foyer?" And he kind of looked at me weird. I was like, "Your foyer."
Foyer. Yeah, it is a French word, I think.
Yeah.
Foyer.
Mm-hmm.
Foyer. And speaking of French, Mal's been listening to French rap.
Is it good?
Yeah. It's pretty good. She's nodding her head over there. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, yeah.
Affirmative.
Yeah, it gets her hips moving.
Bonjour, je m'appelle. Just kidding.
Yeah. Je m'appelle.
I took
Eat some snails.
I took a escargot, homie.
Escargot. Yeah,
Have you had escargot?
Let's go. Get some escargot.
For sure.
That's one of the, for sure. That's one of the rhymes, actually. It's actually verbatim.
Nice. So I've had escargot twice. First time was delicious. I was at McCormick and Schmick's in Las Vegas, East Flamingo Boulevard. I don't even know if they're still open there, but I had it like 6 months ago. It just was not cooked the same. I was like,
Just wasn't slapping.
Was not.
Well,
it wasn't busted.
It wasn't busted.
It wasn't busting.
Yo, snails be busting.
Your snails be busting.
You got busting snails?
Yeah, but I took a half a semester in 8th grade of French, and I remember in 7th grade, and I was like, "Oh, we can take language. Well, I'm gonna take French. Ooh, cool." And I got into it, and I'm like,
yeah, like girls like French.
"Fuck this."
That's funny, dude. So, how long ago did you eat the snails, though?
Oh, dude, I was like
first go around.
First go with the escargot, I was about 21.
So, do you know your palate changes around your late 20s? I can't remember the exact time frame, but your palate like literally changes, and then you like different shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, like,
so maybe you're like,
I've always been like a foodie guy.
Yeah.
And like it just had a lot of butter and garlic, and it was like, the other time it didn't have that.
How much of a foodie are you? Like, do you dress up like who's the guy? Guy Fieri, yeah.
Yeah, Guy Fieri.
Yeah, you got the frosted tips.
Yeah, bro, I got to frost the beard and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Go to Flavor Town.
Yep. But yeah, no, I love food, and like my mom told me the first time she gave me chocolate when I was like, like 8 months old or whatever. She's like, you got this dreamy look in your eye. And, I just love really good, like prepared food, right?
Yeah. How did we do tonight?
It's delicious.
With the steak.
Yeah. Especially with the cheese, dude.
Yeah.
I'd love, what kind of cheese was that?
We had like 3 cheeses.
I just had the more crumbly one.
Oh yeah. That one is like, I'd have to look at it. I can't remember. It's fancy cheese, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Like
I'm fancy. I told you, I'm fancy.
It's got a bit of stank to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I love, or what I'll do is I'll get, I'll put some, what is it, tri-tip on the Traeger bud. And, and then I'll get like,
some tri-tip on the Traeger bud.
I'll get some, what is it, white sharp cheddar and Kerrygold white sharp cheddar.
That was a cheddar. It was an aged cheddar.
Yeah.
I can't remember the brand of it.
Yeah, well, it had a very...
coffee in it, I think.
That one?
The black one.
Oh, okay. It was the black label of that brand that we just call it the black one.
I didn't notice any coffee.
There's a green one.
Maybe I'm wrong.
It's basically the whole Power Rangers lineup.
Yeah.
It's in a cheese.
Yep.
So that's how we identify.
The Green Ranger died, right, Billy? I think his name's Billy.
Like canonically, or did he like real life die?
Real life, he's dead.
Okay, because I was like, I don't remember that being written into the show.
Yeah. But yeah, I forgot what we were talking.
Alright,
Oh yeah,
Billy.
no. So yeah, I get the Kerrygold sharp white cheddar, and then I'll put it on the tri-tip.
Smoked tri-tip.
Smoked tri. Oh, it'd be busted, dog. Slapping.
Boy. Baby.
But that had a really similar taste to that. So if you notice, like every bite of steak I took, it had just a little piece of the crumbled cheese on there.
Ribeye with blue cheese as well. Blue cheese crumbles.
Yeah, I like blue cheese. All right. But yeah. So to get back to it, yeah, I've always really appreciated just
Good food.
quality food,
Quality.
right? And that was the thing that I really loved about when I initially moved to Las Vegas, because I used to drive around St. George like 3 times. And now, granted, it's a lot bigger and there's more options for restaurants and good eats. But I used to drive around the town like 3 times and be like, God damn it.
Like
There's nothing.
You're trying to decide where to eat.
There's nothing.
And you're like, we're coming up on lap 3.
Yeah. And
Lap
so,
3. Will
and then-
Jared have a place picked out?
Yeah.
No, nothing's
And-
fitting as fancy.
And I don't even know if you could like back then Google a restaurant and check out like ratings. Like that just wasn't a thing. You just had to
this
drive.
was like pre-smartphone.
Yeah, this was like this is probably 2004.
Dude, what's crazy is like we interact with some younger people now. Shout out to Anna. We haven't had this conversation with Anna, but she's our employee, newest employee. She's young. She's 18.
Shout out to Anna.
She's awesome. She's the one that's going to be cutting clips. She's cutting clips now. She might cut clips for this podcast. We'll see. But anyway, just interactions with young people, and you can pick up on these subtle differences when you talk to them.
Yeah, I'm really careful about my references because I'm like, oh, they wouldn't get that reference.
Yeah,
okay.
They never had a landline phone. You know?
But yeah, so then I moved to Las Vegas, and it's just it's a literal melting pot. And you're probably be not proud of me how I'm lighting this cigar, but
Yeah. You just got to keep her lit. I mean, that's a Cuban. Do her right.
I accidentally inhaled all that way.
Uh-oh. But yeah, you get a wide variety is what you're saying.
Yeah, so it's a melting pot, and you have like first generation immigrants there, and so there's restaurants that you go to, and it's like they're real. It's legit, authentic.
Speaking of which,
authentic food, authentic self,
authentic identity. Welcome to another show. By the way, we're 20 minutes in. But yeah, dude, it's awesome being close to Vegas. I like Vegas.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't like Vegas when I was Mormon for some reason.
Even though it was founded by Mormons.
I know, but I just didn't like the Vegas vibe. Because I was Mormon, I just walked around like holding a cross. Mormons don't like crosses either, but theoretically, I was just like, get me out of here. The vices that I once thought were bad are actually just neutral. They're nothing unless you make it good or bad. That's it.
Well, the thing about Las Vegas is like, it's definitely not for everybody. Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Because, I don't want to necessarily say like weak-minded individuals, but it's like if you're easily influenced, because everything's there, like everything. The grimiest stuff that you can find is in Las Vegas, but also there's a lot of good things. Yeah. And when people think of Las Vegas, they think of the strip, and they think of the dudes on the side of the road slapping cards and trying to hand it to you with naked ladies on them.
I didn't know what that hand motion you were doing. Like dudes on the side of the road, like
yeah,
like oh shit.
But
what part of town are you in?
I've been in all of them. But yeah, I mean, I always lived in like the Southwest, like South Summerlin, and it was all just like kind of new development, nice parks, nice homes, and I mean, it's really kind of what you make it. Like, there's everything there. There's great people there. There's awesome opportunities. There's
hustlers, people that are just they want to succeed.
Yeah,
they're about there pushing.
But also on the opposite side of that,
you can dive deep into some
every grimy thing you could have ever thought of is there as well. Like, yeah,
absolutely. This might be a perfect segue, actually.
A lot of bad stuff.
Because you, I think we agreed. We kind of discussed our early life, establishing who we are and kind of our journey to find authentic self, to find who the fuck we really are. And that's just at the moment. It's going to change, as we evolve and as you develop in life, your authentic self grows if you're doing it right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the premise of this podcast, just to remind anybody listening. But I think we were going to talk about both of our later years. We talked about early life up until like high school. And I know that you started working doing rebar.
Yeah, it was
in Vegas.
What's called a rod buster.
A rod buster.
And, I had a good friend of mine I used to party with, and I was a rod buster. People called me J-Rod. My name's Jared, but they called me J-Rod. And he was like, we were drinking one night, and I was like, yeah, man, I'm a rod buster. This and that. He's like, you're the J-Rod buster. Oh. So, yeah, it was J-Rod buster for a little bit. But, yeah, so that's definitely an important part of my life, because that really was like a
lot of stuff happened. You laid a lot of foundation.
It laid a lot of foundation.
And rebar.
And rebar. Laid that shit. Placer. Yeah, you place rebar.
Right. So we've kind of heard some in previous episodes, the intricacies of rod busting.
Busting rods, dog.
Rod busting.
Pumpkin bar.
Pumpkin bar. Like pumpkin bars?
Punkin, like you're...
Yeah, punk.
Like punk.
Punk rock.
You got to punk that shit.
Punk it out.
You punk it out, dog.
There's weird terms for like manual labor like that.
Yeah.
Because in the military, there's different terms for like hiking with your gear. Like
rucking.
Rucking is one. But
we have your
Marine Corps,
nomenclature.
Humping.
What? Say what?
Humping a pack.
Yeah?
Yeah, we just humping. We humped like 18 miles. We humped it. We humped
all the way?
We humped out.
All the way.
We humped to completion.
Yo, we were humping in. We humped out. We was humping, dog.
Yeah, we humped all the way to completion every time. But yeah, that's funny. So, pumpkin bar.
Bear. Barea.
Barra.
That's where I learned work Spanish. I could take whole teams of Hispanic dudes, and
I think that's kind of a small rite of passage for white dudes to go learn work Spanish. Like in some blue collar environment. Like for me, it was landscaping, and then later framing crew.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, I drop the hammer or something, like, I'm carrying something and my hammer like falls out, and they're like, La mujer de quién? Like, whose woman are you now? Whose bitch are you?
What had happened was I graduated high school by the hair of my chitty chin chin, and I basically took the summer off. I was thinking about what I wanted to do. I've always loved football. A big part of me wanted to go be like, try to be a walk-on at Dixie State back then. But my brother-in-law, Bob, big shout out to Bob. I got to see him yesterday. He was a surprise. He was a surprise visit to the Draper office because Jefferson's doing some business with him. And cool. Jefferson, we were on a Zoom call, and he was driving up, and he's like, hey, how long you be around the office for? I was like, till about 4. He's like, okay, well, Bob's meeting me there. And I was like, shit, my brother-in-law, Bob, mi cuñado. But anyway, I got to see Bob, love Bob. But he had been working in Las Vegas, and he was making prevailing wage, tying rebar. And it's all commercial stuff. So people ask, oh, did you use a little gun? And I'm like, bars this big around, you can't do, don't use no damn gun.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was doing great there, making 40, I think at the time it was like $45 an hour at that point. And I was...
That's insane for that time too.
Oh yeah, it was 2005. So, I'm just kind of figuring out what I want to do. Took the summer off. I was basically drinking every day. It's the most I ever drank in my life. I've never drank consecutively like that. And just really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then I just felt like, it's a great opportunity if I could get on with him. And I remember having the conversation with him. I was like, he was walking into his room, and I was like, hey, Bob. He's like, what's up? What's up, J-Rod? And I was like, hey, man, like, I would love to get on in Las Vegas with you guys and start working. And he just looked at me. He's like, I'm happy with this decision, J-Rod. And I was like, okay. But anyway,
like the mafia, he's like, this pleases me.
yeah, this pleases me.
This pleases your decision. This made me happy.
Yeah, happy. But yeah, so he was like, look, there's this guy. He works in town locally for Bundy Steel, and actually went to school with his daughter. And he was like, I'll get you on with old Lester and get you trained up. And once you're ready and we're ready, we'll bring you down.
Nice.
And this was unbeknownst to Lester. I didn't ever even thought that it would be like something to communicate, or if Bob had communicated it. All I knew is that Bob set me up with a job to go work with Lester Bundy. So anyway, I tied rebar for about 5 months here in town, in St. George, with Bundy Steel. Started at $10 an hour, got moved to $11 an hour. It's really hard work, that's for sure. And so anyway, it was the day before my 19th birthday, and I had I wouldn't say I progressed as fast in that job as I had in other jobs, because I was just a young kid, and it was super hard work, rough old dude, and I caught on, but at the same time, I remember a couple interactions with me where I was asking stupid questions and he just turned around and walked away. But, I learned real quick. And so it was the day before my 19th birthday. And at that point, 5 months in, and I kind of worked into like what was someone he could start relying on. Like he knew that I was going to show up, I was going to do my job, I was going to learn, or whatever it is. Got to keep the cigar going.
Yeah, keep going. So you kind of, you started seeing your true colors.
Yeah.
What's this kid made out of?
Yep. Steel, but so it was the day before my 19th birthday, and I knew we had a big job going the next day. And, I've worked plenty of birthdays. I've spent birthdays in the hospital, whatever. Like, birthday is just another day for me these days as
an adult.
As an adult. But back then it was like, okay, well, how am I going to tell this guy I don't want to work tomorrow for my birthday? So I'm kind of stewing on it all day, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell him at the end of the day. And that was like my big issue for the day, how I'm going to tell this guy I'm not going to show up just that next day for work. And it was about an hour to go in the day, and I get a call from Bob. And it's not like, hey, next week or whatever. He's like, hey, we need you down tomorrow. And I'm like, shit. So now I'm considering what it looks like to tell this guy that I don't want to work tomorrow. And now I'm going to start a new job with the big boys down in Las Vegas, making $45 an hour instead. And that's what I got to tell the guy.
You're in the major leagues now.
Yeah, I got called up to the big leagues.
Yeah, dude.
Son.
And it's so funny how people, like, they put so much emphasis on stuff. Like, me and Mal just had an interaction with the client, and Mal, being a sweetheart, was like, we were trying to pin down a day where we could launch something with a client. She's like, oh, that's your birthday. And in my mind, I was like, oh my God, don't bring that up. Now I'm like, so I was teaching Mal how you can sometimes in a sales appointment or a meeting, you can equip the client with some ammunition without meaning it.
Exactly.
And I've done that so many times in sales.
Or make something a thing when it doesn't necessarily need to be a thing.
Emphasize one thing, and then they latch onto that, and you're like, no, let go, no, shit. You're like,
now you're backtracking.
And so that's what happened. It's just a common thing. But I was like, she's like, that's your birthday. You sure you want to meet? And I was like, absolutely. In my mind, I'm like, oh, shit. And then she's like, oh, we can't do it on your birthday. So, of course, the client, too, being nice, was like, oh, we can't do it on your birthday. So, like, but in my mind, I'm like, no, we got to like move to seal this deal, like it's going to be in the way. So now it's not a bad thing, but it's just like pushed back a week. And I'm like, we could,
it's all good.
But that's how I feel about my birthday. It's just another day.
Yeah. Birthday it's an opportunity, know?
It's always nice. Like with loved ones, Mal's been awesome. I think I've had the best birthdays I've ever had with Mallory. She's like made it fantastic. Like she organized this entire surprise party for me. Our first year of mating. I almost said of mating. Our first year
your courtship.
Courting her. Yeah. Yeah, so we got I just was oblivious. I'm like, I just thought she was taking me out to dinner at a bar in Salt Lake that I used to bounce at. They serve food and stuff. And so I was up there. We get up there and like, I like see my roommate. I'm like, what are you doing here, man? He's like, oh, nothing. We're just eating dinner. I'm like, well, come eat with us. He's like, yeah, maybe. And he like runs in. And I'm still not putting it together, but she put a surprise party together for me. It was like my whole Marine Corps unit was there, like people I hadn't seen in years. Like she just Wizard of Oz that shit into place, and no one's ever done anything like that for me.
Unbeknownst to you,
to me. And I usually pick up on stuff too, so she's got the craftiness.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
so rebar. Now,
so you got the big leagues.
I got to the big leagues.
You worked your ass off down there. I'm gonna fast forward a little bit.
Yeah.
But you were making bitchin' money. Just bussing.
19-year-old.
Your money was bussing.
Bussing, dog. Bussing.
But yeah, you're 19-year-old. You're making prevailing wage, so you're making $45 an hour.
Yep. And
this is pre-2008 crash.
Oh, yeah. And back then, it was... When I started, if we worked, say, 10 hours in a day, they paid you overtime after 8 hours. So
you're getting prevailing wage plus time and a half.
Yeah, so I was making $400 a day on a lot of days as a 19-year-old.
Killer.
And you know, I commuted back and forth for over a year and a half, which...
But to be clear, that's back-breaking work. So a 19-year-old, fine, made out of rubber. But that's like...
Still...
Still. I take the Bruce Lee approach. I'm like, you must be like water, ever flowing. You pour water into a cup, Jared, the water becomes the cup. You pour. Actually, maybe I'm not made of water. Maybe I'm made of scotch. But anyway, you pour liquid into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You pour water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. And then you'd be like, you know.
But yeah, so, you know, I started there.
So you're made of steel.
Made of steel.
You're 19 years old. And then...
making good money.
How did... Because I know you got a house.
Bought a house when I was 20 years old.
Yeah, so that was 2006, 7?
7.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I'm 20 years old. I got a nice truck. I own a home. I'm making 6 figures. And, you know, and everything was great. Because in a lot of, you know, I was a foreman. I became a foreman within a year. So I'm running jobs. You know, our job wasn't worth $100 million, but like the total job, like $100 million jobs, and I'm the guy.
Yeah,
you know,
you're running that project.
Groups of, you know, up to 20 guys I'd be running. Learn enough Spanish to be able to run, you know, the Hispanic guys as well. And shit was rocking and rolling. And all the people I looked up to at that time, especially when I bought the home, they were like, "Man, you're doing work." Because prior to 2000 and, you know, the Great Recession, for a lot of people maybe that weren't around back then or not understanding what was going on, I mean, the value of your house would go up daily in those times. So I knew people, you know, a little bit older than me or whatever, and they had bought a house and sold it, made $100,000 in a year or just whatever it was. And so that was like the track that I thought I was on.
Yeah.
And actually, when I did buy it, the market was on a slight downturn. But I was like, you know, I'm in a position to buy. I want to move down. I've been commuting for freaking over a year and a half. And if the equity goes down like 20,000, 50,000 tops, whatever.
You're like, oh no.
Oh no. But within, you know, just about a year and a half or so, or a year, owning the home, it was worth less than half of what I had bought it for. And also the company that I was working for, they had kind of spread themselves thin with some things they were working on. They had bought some land and tried to fabricate their own rebar. And all the investment into that and everything. And also at that time, all these other companies were struggling. And so when you have, say, I don't know, we had 40, 50 guys or whatever it was. When I started, I was the 6th man on the crew. And within 2 years, we were up to like 50 guys.
Wow.
And you know, a big part of it, like they were not the worst moves that they made. However, when your payroll is paying 50 guys, at that point it was $56 an hour. and all of a sudden the people who are contracting you aren't paying you because they're not getting paid. And so you're just bleeding money and you've made all these investments. The company just went belly up.
Yeah.
So
The ship sank.
So I went from like, okay, this dude's 21 years old. He owns a home. He's making great money. He's got all this going on for himself. And then the market crashed. And then Las Vegas was hit particularly hard. And I hung on for about 8 months with the home. Just doing everything I could to make it work. And finally it just got to the point where, I was even trying to short sell it, have people come over looking at the home, and ended up just having to walk away and foreclosed.
Wow.
Yep. So next thing I know, and then I broke my ankle sliding into second base, playing some damn softball. And I was in great shape. Like, not only did I freaking work my ass off, tying rebar, which it takes a certain amount of brute strength, and especially the way that we did stuff, because they would, we would have punking competitions to see who could lift the most, or we would be
just guy shit where you're like, oh, tough.
And we would run everywhere. No matter if we had bar on our back or not, it was running. We'd be doing post-tension decks, and you got all these freaking post-tension cables this way, and you got a bunch of bars and stuff. It's all loose, and then you have the template that we set up. So essentially, it's like every 8 feet or whatever it is, you have what we call chairs, like these plastic things, and maybe they were 8 inches tall, 10 inches tall, whatever it was. And then you'd have like transverse bars as well. So like whatever they were on center, 8 feet on center, whatever it was to set up that template. Not only were you running with freaking bar on your back with someone else attached to that bar, having to like essentially hurdle these little freaking transfer bars, and everything's loose underneath you, and we were running doing it. And it's also 118 degrees. I've worked in 128 degrees, like just a bunch of shit. All the while I was in the gym. I was going to the gym every day, and something I took a lot of pride in. I not only had brute strength, I had gym strength, because those are two very separate things, and there's very few people that have both of them. And I was a young, extremely strong individual, and I had a lot going for me. And the next thing you know, my ankle's broken, so I'm not in the gym anymore. I'm just laid up, resting, getting, atrophy going on because I'm not doing shit. And living in my buddy's, moved into my buddy's apartment as his roommate. I'm on unemployment, and it was a fast fall.
Yeah.
Fast fall.
Foreclosed on a house, 21. Yeah, that was, I think you're one of the few people like my age, our age, that I know that actually was affected by the housing market crash of '08, because I was on my LDS mission at the time. So I was not even in close position to buy a house or to be a homeowner of any kind. And most of the people I know were not either. So they didn't really get a direct, they didn't get touched by the Grim Reaper of that housing crash. So, but you did, which is like crazy, to be 19, to be 21 and foreclose on a house because of the crash like that.
And luckily it happened early enough to where, most people aren't in position to buy a home until they're in their 30s or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it happened early enough to where, it sucked. I went 7 years with terrible credit, but that shit falls off, bro.
It does.
It falls off, because it did. I remember seeing a $250,000 debt on there, debt collection or whatever it was, derogatory mark. And then one day it just fell off.
It just disappeared.
It was just gone.
Yeah, debt's interesting. There's a bunch of weird stuff. Like if the bank, if you owe money to an institution and they send you to collections, that means that collections agency bought that debt.
Yep.
At a way lower rate. And so they can collect on it. So if you owe $250,000, the collections agency might have bought that for $30,000.
Yep.
And then they're hoping to collect above $30,000 on it. So $100K, and they're like, hey, we can negotiate this down from $250K down to $150K or $100K. And then they turn a huge profit on collecting it. But the debt has literally legally already been settled. And so if the collections agency is reaching out to you, you can just ignore them.
That's what I did.
But there's weird like.
I love to answer my phone now because I'm like, what is this about?
Yeah. Who are you?
Who are you? But there was a time where,
Yeah, you're like,
if I didn't know what the number was, I ain't answering it.
Yeah, I remember that same thing. But yeah, being financially literate too, and understanding that stuff can happen, just kind of makes you understand like the whole system is just a farce. It's just like,
and I was lucky enough
interesting
because they had adjustable rates back then, adjustable rate mortgage and ARM loan. And
did you have it fixed or what?
I had it fixed at like 6% or something like that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's where when I was doing mortgages, they had like whole sections that we had to study in the MLS for your licensing and stuff about adjustable rates and what happened in 2008, and people with adjustable rate loans just got raked over the coals even more.
Yeah. So my sister, who's married to the brother-in-law, Bob, they had purchased a home in Ivins, and her best friend was her loan officer and signed her up on an adjustable rate mortgage.
Yeah.
And so they just had this little, nothing special home in Ivins, a little three bedroom. And when they bought the home, it was like an $1,100 payment. Next thing you know, the thing's like $1,900.
Yeah.
And
rising.
And the home's worth way less.
Yeah.
And they held on to it for a while, and even had my sister and my dad live there, and bless their hearts, they basically didn't pay her rent. They lived there for 3 years. And so she's just paying that every month. And then finally they ended up filing for bankruptcy. And then they had to pay a bunch of money there, and their credit was still bad for a long time. And, I never did any of that. And it was like my credit, I never had to come any more out of pocket. I actually still collected rent from my roommates during that 8 months that I stayed there. And then I sold all the appliances and chandeliers and stuff. I sold all that shit before I left. And so it sucked, but basically I just ended up with bad credit, but I was still collecting money and stuff. I maximized what it was that I could get out of it before I left.
Yeah.
However, and bless their hearts because they were helping out family, but you times like $1,900 a month for 3 years, they came out of pocket there. Then they had to come out of pocket because they did make high incomes back then as well, in filing bankruptcy. And there's just certain brackets that you fall into to where you have to pay more if you do file bankruptcy.
Right.
So they had to pay there. They also had to have bad credit. And by the time my credit had rebounded, and I was working with 700 plus credit score, they still had another 3 years before like their shit rebounded, and all this money out in the meantime.
From that scenario of you losing a house in the whole crash and everything, going from king of the world as a 21-year-old to, back to basically like a normal 21-year-old, like being a roommate. What was like in regards to your identity today? Like, what do you think was forged in that? Or what did you learn? What were your takeaways?
Good question. So I always knew if I could do it once, I could do it again. Mm-hmm. That's for damn sure. And it also gave me more of an understanding of my worth, that I am capable of making a lot of money and what my time is worth. I did have to go through quite a bit to get back to that point, but I always knew that if I did it once, I could do it again, and I valued what I'm worth a lot more. But even $56 an hour, like nowadays that could be good, but excuse me, that ain't shit.
It's still low.
It's low compared
from the taste of the perspective you have now. It's still it's not what you're worth.
I would never take a job for even $100 an hour or $200. Like, especially in a situation where you're in sales and you have high commission potential. I mean, if I could literally just go out and knock on someone's door and make $3,000 to $4,000 in the next hour and a half.
Yeah,
that's it.
Exactly.
I
had my brother-in-law. He's an awesome guy, but he's blue collar and he thinks blue collar. He's like a genius though, like mechanical. Same with Mal's dad. They're both like master machinists. Or her brother-in-law Matt, he's going to be a master machinist. Like they're just smart guys. But he was making fun of me because I, with this sales job, I don't know. He didn't really know what I was making, but he was making fun of me that I had someone come and do my lawn. The badge of honor, the blue collar badge of honor. Like, No, I fix that shit myself.
Yep.
You know, I mow my own lawn. You know, I don't let anybody touch my domain. Like there's a lot to be said about that. I think there's excellent to be proud of your property and to maintain it, to be responsible. But I just think differently, you know, and I was starting to think differently. I used to think like that. I'm like, no, I can fix it myself. I can do it myself and I can save all this money and everything. And so he was giving me a hard time that I paid someone to mow my lawn. And then, you know, I let him go on it for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, so in the same amount of time it takes me to mow my lawn and like get everything and do it all every Saturday or Sunday or whatever, like I could probably make $2,000 to $3,000. So to pay $100 a month, I'm like, that's $1,200 a year. I'm like, I can make that in 1 hour. So like, you know, if I do 2 or 3 sales, like I could literally fund someone mowing my lawn for the next 10 years on a Saturday afternoon. I'm like, so that's kind of the math behind that. And then I just went back to like eating and he was like, oh, that makes sense. And then he just like totally sang a different tune. And I was like, yeah. So the understanding your identity and understanding like who the fuck you are. One of the exercises I'd recommend anybody doing if you're on the fence, it's like, what is the price tag for your time? You know, and Justin Prince, he talked about that at the JKR kickoff this year. We just had a podcast with him this morning.
Did you?
We produced for Solid for Jeff and Brandon.
And he was on there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was saying the same thing. He's like, you can really start adding up your worth. Like, what are you worth per hour, per minute? You can put dollar amounts to that as a metric. He's like, it's not healthy to go chase money, but you can use that as a metric and be like, is my time worth this much? And then focus on doing your top 5 highest impactful actions, right? And that comes down to understanding who you are. What's your identity? What are you willing to do? Are you the guy that's willing to stay late and run an appointment after you worked 14 hours?
Yes.
Jared is. Some people aren't. Some certain people. But that's with every job, right? People check out, they go home early. They don't want to get uncomfortable. What did you say at the table when we were eating steaks? What's beyond something's beyond comfort or something?
Yeah. So, I mean, all of your success is beyond your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's that small margin. Like you got the NBA G League and you got the NBA and, you know, the margin of skill isn't that much, but it's the equivalent of maybe tens of thousands of dollars or even potentially hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions, yeah.
With that small margin. And that small margin, and you know, I'm not going to say there's guys in the G League that aren't doing those little things and getting uncomfortable, because there absolutely is, but those are the guys that make it to the NBA and get those contracts.
Yeah, you're right. They get drafted out of college because they did that little extra.
Exactly.
And it's the same thing in sales or in any other job. And I would say this to reframe it for the theme of our podcast, where you're having an authentic identity. On the other side of discomfort is another piece of who you are. That's how you find out who you are. That's why these young men go look for challenges. That's why there's a rite of passage in cultures. That's why there's something like it's all to do with adversity. The more adversity and the more risks you take, the more failures you have, the more perseverance that you exhibit just in life in general. Like it could even be dumbed down to like, you know, staying in the pocket in a as a quarterback in a football game, or like not holding onto your bluff in a poker match. Like on the other side of that adversity is wealth, riches, and the most valuable treasure I think you can find is who you are authentically. Are you the kind of person that does push the extra mile, or are you the kind of person that clocks out early to go watch Netflix?
Yep.
You know, I'm not to say that's not a bad thing to do. It's just kind of a neutral thing to do. If you do that enough, your wheels will spin and you'll be unhappy. And no matter how much money you have, if you're not authentically yourself, I just think you're going to be unhappy anyway. But so on the other side of adversity, would you agree? Like that's a good little mantra for this episode, or it's like on the other side of that adversity is more of your authentic self.
Yeah, I believe so, Or like, say, David Goggins, I think he has the 40% rule, where it's like people only really do 40% of what they're capable of. But being 100, say if you can get to 100% of what your potential is, that's 100% of you and who you are.
Yeah.
And everybody, they get to that 40% mark and they're just like, peter out. But you're capable of so much more within that margin of that next 60%. And that's where you test yourself. That's where you find out who you really are. And how can you be authentic with yourself if you don't test yourself enough to find out who you are?
Yeah, right. Like if a blacksmith is testing a certain type of metal for a job, like before they wield a sword or a tool, like they're going to find out the tolerances of that metal and put it through hell. You know, how can I forge this? You know, how many hammer strikes can this ingot of steel take before it shapes and before it breaks? Or, you know, if I make this too narrow and at this temperature, it's going to break. And so then you go back the next time, like you did. You're like, if I did it once, I can do it twice.
Yep.
And so now look at you, dude. Like, just to give the audience some context, like, tell us what you do now and where you're at company wise. And if you want to get specific about income and stuff too, but like, yeah, what are you doing? I think you're a part of something big. So I'm kind of giving you a green light to tell us that.
Yeah. I mean, where I'm at now, and I mean, my goals are much bigger than what I'm doing now. That's 100% sure, or for certain. But I mean, what I've been working on the last, say, 3.5 years, you know, I've always known I've had a ton of potential, right? And it's like a disservice to yourself if you're not like fulfilling your potential, especially if you know that you have it there.
Yeah.
And
I think you feel miserable.
Yeah, and it's miserable.
living.
And I've never been considered myself a depressed person, but I've definitely been miserable.
You've experienced depression.
It's hard to say that. I've been miserable, that's for sure, but I've never considered myself depressed.
That's cool.
And I think that it's because I was not on the path to what my potential is. And, you know,
some would say you weren't in alignment.
I was not aligned.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
With your true self, your true purpose.
It was not, I was not being authentic with what I know my potential is and who I am. And I had just taken on too much responsibility in terms of whatever it was I was dealing with being a father, being a husband, or whatever it was. And I just disassociated myself from what I needed to do to like personally develop myself and grow as an individual.
Yeah. To like I think everybody has like a frequency that they resonate with, or something that like makes them like the most happy. Like they're doing something in their life, or they're on a path, or they're feeling fulfilled by something. And that's like really where they like hum, like their soul is plucked like a harp string and it's in tune.
Yep.
It's bing, and it's a pure,
and you vibrate.
yeah. You raise your vibration. Some people would say, you know who we have to have on here, Mal, is Alti Dapper. She's like a little wizard guru. She's a mage.
I like wizards.
Order of magic.
Female wizards.
A female is a witch.
But yeah,
seems derogatory.
but you know, I just wasn't in tune with myself. I had essentially let the world get a hold of me and my responsibilities and everything. And there was a time, man, and I know I need to shave right now, but I mean, it was unshaven. I would wear my hat low, and there was about 2 years I didn't even look at myself in the mirror. Like,
Really?
Like, you know, look, okay, brush my teeth or whatever, but look at myself in the eyes, like to like just see how I looked.
Yeah, like check in
with myself. Wouldn't do it. Would not do it. I'd still show up in the workplace and everything, but I was checked out, man.
You were like a zombie.
It was zombie mode.
But change the diaper, put the kids to bed, go to work.
Yeah,
Rest your ass, pay the bills,
and repeat. You know, So, and I started getting more. You know, as I matured, as I was dealing with hardship, whether it was disease or the potential for divorce, which I ultimately went through, it just forced me to take a really long, hard look at myself and start just aligning with who I know I am, who I know what my potential is, being authentic to myself. And I just started getting on the path.
Yeah.
Whether it was tuning into certain podcasts or starting to read certain books or writing out my goals and being intentional about things. And what had happened was
What had happened?
I started writing my goals down and being like intentional about things. And I knew that I needed to get around and something that I just needed in my soul was just to get around other men. I needed it because it was just
What type of men though? Like
goal-oriented, strong goal-oriented, driven men.
Yeah.
The type of man that I knew I could be and I was destined to be, but I just was not being intentional about it. I was not seeking it.
Yes.
I was just work, kids, deal with the wife, and really was not making any time for what I needed to do to like feed my soul and get around people that I felt like I could engage with and I could talk to and I could lean on and just whatever.
Yeah.
And so I got very intentional and I wrote down, get around a group of strong goal-oriented men. And probably less than a week, somebody that's had a huge impact on my life. We all know him. His name's Jefferson Rogers.
Yes, sir.
He was a guy that, I had met as right around my teenage years. I think I was about 14, 15 first time I saw him, and he was kind of the big dog, And I remember he's rolling around with Jeff and Jeff, and they were dating these two girls that I thought they were pretty hot. And, they were just a year older than me, and they were older than those girls. But I was like, those are the dudes. I knew it back then. And, to project now and to know who those guys are now, I mean, they are very much the dudes now.
Yeah, multimillionaires, business owners.
Exactly.
Authentic dudes.
Yeah.
Like, I was actually telling Jeff Fieldstead and Brandon Neal today because we produced for him. I was like, you guys are like living the correct, I would deem it as the correct American lifestyle. What the founding fathers and like what the A players back in the day that founded this awesome country and wrote the Constitution and paved the way for this awesome, opportunity that capitalism and stuff and free markets. Obviously, I'm also of the opinion that has been tainted by weak men and tainted by so much corruption. But I'm like, they're living what I would call the most authentic American life that you can live. It's being self-sovereign, living like, authentically who you are, and having the courage to speak your mind and respect for other people as well, to hear them speak their minds. And, you're not, they're just applying all the wisdom of the past, the Stoics. They just read, they're very well learned. And even Jefferson Rogers has become that.
Yeah.
Right. He's become that guy.
Yeah. And, Jeff Fieldstead was, very much on the path. My sister was in English class with him, and she said it was like super awkward. He just stood up in English class one day when they were seniors, and he was like, basically told everybody he's going to be a millionaire and none of this meant shit or just whatever it was. And it was just
Jeff Fieldstead.
Yeah. And everybody's like, what? But I mean, he was a millionaire at 25 years old.
Yeah.
So, but I knew it back then, man. I just knew that those were the dudes. I've always kind of been in tune with what's going on or whatever it is. And I just knew that, like, I saw them roll up. I was like, oh, them's the big dogs right there.
Yeah, there's some power to them. You can kind of see that in people too. And like, I know a couple people that I grew up with that were like that. But they faltered, and they're not anywhere near like there's a lot of caverns and ravines and traps and snares that will get you along the way and pull you away from your authentic identity.
Exactly.
Your true potential. And it's fascinating to me.
And to fast forward, several years, I very much liken Jefferson to was it Dazed and Confused? Matthew McConaughey's role, where he's like, all right, all right, all right.
Yeah. That was like his first role he ever
Exactly.
played.
And so, because Jeff was about 3 years older than me, and maybe I was about 17, 18 or whatever, because we kind of know each other or whatever. But that's when I would say like we became like homies, because we were hanging around. Because like my group of friends, we basically had the parties. Like we were what was going on back then, and Jefferson was very much in tune with what's going on. And so maybe we're a little bit younger than him, but there were some older guys as well. But it was just like, that's how I knew Jeff. We was Party Jeff, right? Like that was the dude you partied with, and we got down. One time we got super drunk. We're at like on this property in Ivins, and it was like a freaking paintball course or whatever that we were on, and it was all made out of wood. And like we're over there like punching holes in the wood and shit, and just like tearing the place apart.
Just doing drunk alpha.
Just doing drunk shit. And Jeff was very much the guy like you would want him to be your friend
rather than anything. Yeah,
rather than anything, just because like he was about it, But then we grew up, we got families, we parted ways, the whole deal. But we were always friends on Facebook. We had ran into each other. I was with Bob because Jeff and Bob used to be great friends growing up. And we ran into Jeff as when he was like, I don't even think he was married to Chandel yet, but we ran into them at like a Brazilian steakhouse, and he was just like, eyes were lit up. He's like, what's up, guys? He just looked so excited to see us because he hadn't seen us in years. He knew that we were doing good or whatever. But we were always friends on Facebook, and I was friends with his little brother Justin a little bit with Jared as well. Always like Facebook friends and stuff. But it was like Jeff, even though like he was, I was closer in age to Justin and Jared, but like Jeff was like my homie. It was more like I knew those guys, but it was like, yo, Jefferson. And just a little bit of history on Jefferson and I was in a rap group called Hot Flames way back in the day, 2005 probably.
Are there any different types of flames like other?
They were hot. They were hot. Those flames were hot. So were the bars. But he would just sit there in the studio with us, and he would never try to rap or anything. And I was very particular about who was in the studio because
he was like the hype man for the
group. So I was just like, look, if you want to come and participate and engage with us and like try, it doesn't matter if you suck or not. But like, this is not like it's not a show for you. Like
we're serious.
Yeah, like but we're Jefferson. He was never trying to rap or anything, but he just loved to be there. And I remember I'm sitting there behind the mic and I'm rapping like this, and Jefferson's sitting right here with his biggest shit-eating grin I've ever seen him have, just watching me rap like a foot from my face from the side right here. But we had him listed because we had even had a website back then, because the guy that produced all the beats, he was like, he owns DigiVoice, the guy that like our phone systems for JKR Windows.
Oh yeah,
he owns DigiVoice, and the dude's always been super nerd. He's not like a nerdy type when you meet him.
Digimon.
No, he's not like a super nerdy type if you meet him, like super cool. But like he's always been super into computers, and I think he got in some trouble in the government back in the day because he figured out how to like hack and some like take like a penny from a bunch of people's bank accounts. I'm not sure what the story was. I never talked to him directly about it, so excuse me, Brady, if I'm wrong there. But he's always just been great with computers, and he owned Lifeguard computers on Sunset Forever and sold it. Now he runs DigiVoice. But Brady had listed Jefferson Rogers as our music analyst on our website.
Music analyst.
Yeah. So you go all the way back to 2005. There was a website with Hot Flames, and it's got like a little profile.
Is it still up? Is it on
No, I've looked it up. It's not up.
Oh, damn.
But I remember I busted this Hot Flames tag, and that was like the like, when you put in the URL and searched it. I don't even know if they just call the URL up back then. I don't know. But yeah, that's what pulled up that tag that I did. And then you go down, and it's got like, you can play little MP3s or whatever and listen to some of the tracks, the samples. And then they had like the people in the group, producer or the rappers and the music analysts, Jefferson Rogers. So that's how far I go back with that, man. Okay, so fast forward. He had reached out to me, and I think they had been in business. He had been in business for about 2 years, something along those lines, maybe a little less. And he was like, we're having a lot of growth within the company right now, and hey, would you be open to an opportunity if the money was right? And that's his line to this day. He'll if he sees someone he likes out in public, he's at
That's how we got Drake.
a restaurant. That's how it got me.
Yeah.
It's like the best. I told him, like, that's like the best one liner ever. How could, like,
You can't say no to that.
you can't say no to that.
If the money was right, that's so open ended
Exactly. Would you be open
to an opportunity to
people
come
like
work
to
for
be
me.
open. It's not interested. It's open.
Yeah.
Right. People like, because you could be interested or disinterested, but everybody wants to be like open. Right.
Yeah, I remember when we started. Well, I'll let you keep going.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
So anyway, I showed up, and at the time, I'd actually started my own business and was doing okay. I was into like low voltage stuff, so I'd be running like wires in people's homes if they needed like some Cat 6 run, hardwired camera systems, PoE stuff like that. So I started doing my own thing, was doing okay, and I was like, you know what, if the money was right, okay, let me check it out. And I think he also was very intentional about how he did it because he actually put me to work. He had me do some stuff at JKR Windows. I was running, mounting TVs and.
Oh, okay. So he like hired you for your services.
Yeah, and then he had me go to his house, and it was a rental house. He was renting it from, I think, his uncle, and had me like put in like at least an 8 camera system and running like access points, running freaking wires from his attic all the way down to his basement and a bunch of shit. And I never talked to him about it, but I think it was just because he was trying to, whatever.
Yeah, he probably saw. I mean, it might have been dual purpose. You see a need with somebody and use their services, and then that's actually like one of the most common ways to get partnerships in business, like relations with people, is like, hey, let me pay full price for your shit, and then we'll do business in the future again.
Yeah, and yeah, so I agreed to come on as a door knocker, and I remember. Because I remember when Jefferson went into Windows, because my brother-in-law, Bob, Jefferson at the time was working for his uncle, and there was this kind of unique project that his uncle had got a contract for, to where we went around the country, and we would go to ready-mix plants, and we would change out their admixture tanks. There's these tanks, they range from about 300 gallons all the way to 600 gallons, or 6,000 gallons. And it contains admixture chemicals. So depending on the application of the concrete, depending if it's a floor or a wall or different times of year, there's different admix chemicals they'll put into it based off what they need.
Dude, someone could start a podcast just about the depth and the variety of concrete.
Fuck. Yeah.
Speaking about niches.
Yeah, niches. And what's interesting, I never did concrete specifically, but I tied rebar place to reinforce concrete, and then I replaced these admixture tanks that provide the chemicals. Or that contain the chemicals for concrete.
Yeah, because like I was blown away in the military. They do these shoot houses where you go use live ammunition in a structure that's made out of special concrete that's really soft and it absorbs the bullets. And so after X amount of usage, and they have like mixture there they can patch walls with and stuff.
Probably called shotcrete.
Shotcrete. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was looking for that word. I didn't know I was looking for that word for like
that's the word.
The last 5
They use
years.
it for pools and walls and things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, what's interesting is Jefferson had hired Bob as his foreman for that because he was like the senior manager or whatever for that project. And then Jefferson had ended up, he was networking with the guy down in Arizona, and this guy had a lot going on already. He was already wealthy. He had investment properties, the whole deal. And this guy's knocking doors selling windows. And Jeff's like, "What's the deal?" And like the dude's like, "You'd be surprised how lucrative this is. You should come along." So Jefferson ends up getting into windows. And I remember, so then Bob gets elevated to senior manager. And then Bob calls me and is like, "Hey, why don't you come be my foreman?" And so it was like Jefferson out, Jared in. And I was like, "So what's Jefferson doing?" "Oh, he's selling windows." Cool. And a couple years went by. I didn't really hear much about it, but then Jefferson ended up starting JKR Windows.
Isn't that how you met Obadiah as well?
No, I met Obadiah. We were working at a youth treatment facility.
Oh, okay.
A few years before that, but I had recruited him into that job, which at the time was the highest paying job he ever had. And then I recruited him into JKR Windows, and in turn was the highest paying job he's ever had.
2 for 2.
2 for 2.
You're like, hey, let me upgrade you, Obi.
Best 2 jobs Obi ever had.
Obi-Wan.
I had recruited him.
You like showed up to him in a robe, like a Jedi robe, and you're like, Obi-Wan.
A good job you want.
Longoria. Yeah. Let me change your life.
But
Jedi.
But yeah, so, and I remember when Jefferson had started JKR Windows, because we were always friends on Facebook. Like, you know, I'll get like a post or something from like 11 years ago or whatever, and it'll be like him wishing me happy birthday or something. Like, we just go way back. And I remember him posting stuff on Facebook. He's like, I'm just out here knocking doors, this and that. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? He's knocking doors? Like, I don't know. I was just
then he hits you with the line.
So then a few years later, he hits me with the line, and I very well knew what it was. But at the time, there was a couple reasons why I entertained the idea. One is because when we had our initial interview, you know, I came and met with him, and it was just, we were so aligned in terms of like the path that we were on. He was just a little bit further ahead of me, which, you know, he's 3 years older than me. And it almost seems like there's a lot of dualities with what some of the stuff that we've done with our lives and kind of the benchmarks. And you know, he was just a little bit further ahead of me. He had started his own business and was really getting. But even then, dude, like I remember like looking at his like there was a time where I was bigger than Jeff.
Yeah.
When I first started, because I was getting all super jacked.
No, I met you when you were huge when I started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I remember even when we were like partying back in the day, he was like, man, I wouldn't want to fuck with a dude like J-Rod. And I was like, I remember because I just always kind of held him in high regard. I'm like, he really thinks that about me? Like, that's fucking Jeff. And Jeffro. That was Jeffro. It didn't turn into Jefferson until a couple years back.
Yeah, until he had to be proper, right?
Yeah. But now it's Jefferson. But anyway, he had, you know, it was just, we had just, you know, you don't cry in interviews, right? We were crying, bro.
Yeah.
Because we were just really leveling with each other. We had both gone through our own respective bullshits or whatever, and it was just we were on the same path.
Yeah, the crazy journey of life had led you to this point.
Exactly, and it was like
team up like the goddamn Avengers.
Exactly, and it was like you know, he was just a little bit further on me on the path, and so he had kind of paved it a little bit. But I was just like, man,
he's really good at sharing his vision.
Yeah, it was like he's a visionary.
Better at it.
He's a visionary.
Yeah.
Read the book Rocket Fuel. And you'd be like, oh,
that's Jeff.
That was based off of Jeff. And I brought it up to him. I'm like, man, that thing kind of reminds me of you.
It's not literally based off of him, though, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But it is. It is based off of who he is in business. Mm-hmm. And he told me, he was like, man, I listened to that book 4 times in a row because I could not believe the parallels that
it had.
What that has with visionaries in business and what I've gone through.
That's nuts, man.
But yeah, it was just, it was like he was already paving the trail and I just had to hop on the path.
Yeah.
Right?
Help him start paving it.
But yeah, and then a couple incentives for me in terms of getting on. I don't want to say incentives, but I guess motives were that, for one, I knew his brother Justin, he's just done amazing in the window space. He's not with JKR Windows anymore, but he's still in that space and he's just...
Dude.
Probably the best ever.
Justin Rogers is the best goddamn salesman I've ever met. And I've met a lot of salesmen. That's for you, buddy.
Yep.
I miss you, man. I miss Justin.
Yeah.
I miss Jared Rogers and good old Jakob.
They're all doing good.
They're all doing good.
But yeah, you know, and Justin, he's you know, there might be people with better tactics. Maybe. But in terms of what he's capable of,
the Rogers brothers,
with sales, and then his just tenacity and willing just to put in the work and fucking grind.
Unapologetically themselves.
Yeah,
like I think speaking of like authentic identity, like anybody can get better at anything, anytime, right? There's always room for improvement, but like they're like almost to a fault. They're just unapologetically themselves all the time.
Yep.
And it's actually refreshing to hang out with people like that.
Yeah.
Or to work with them. So.
And for it to be like a group of brothers, anybody that knows those brothers, they're like, they leave a mark.
Yeah, they do.
You don't meet them without remembering them.
For worse, they're gonna make their mark.
Yeah.
And it's admirable because a lot of people don't have the courage to live like that, and society has kind of like softened the edges off of everybody, so nobody is able to be like that.
Yeah.
And so when you go try to work with the Rogers brothers, a lot of people butt heads, you know, because even me and you have butt heads. I've even butt heads with Justin and Jake and Jared. Like, and Jefferson, we've all butt heads because we're all like unapologetically ourselves to a certain degree. And there's so much power in that, but you're going to rub each other wrong. And that's been my experience with military teams and like Marine Corps squads and other contractor groups I was with. Like, if you get that much powerful men in a room, like, you're gonna rub each other wrong. But at the end of the day, you know, we can all laugh. Like in Tennessee, when we were all at the sales thing and we were just having a good old time at restaurants, just throwing back beers and laughing. That was some of my favorite work trips I've ever taken. Yeah. Or with all the Rogers brothers. And
Justin, his initials are JKR, just like the rest of the brothers. However, if you know Justin, his actual initials are BDE.
Yeah, BDE. Well, let's just leave it at that.
Yep.
We know.
Big deal energy.
Big deal pickle.
But yeah, so there was a couple motives for me in that I knew Justin, not as well as Jefferson, but I knew him, Facebook friends, the whole deal, and I knew that he was making over six figures. He was an executive chef. Yeah. Not only is he a great salesman, the dude could chef it up like crazy, like executive style, like highest of end restaurants. He'd like do all the shit, and it's like fucking beautiful
Chef Boyardee
garnish, like the whole deal, bro. And he was selling windows.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, if this guy was making six figures and he's selling windows, there's something to it. Then there's also another individual.
So to bring it back on track real quick, to kind of keep tying it back in.
Yeah.
This was part of your journey. This is a huge momentous occasion for you, finding your authentic self.
Yep.
Right. It's when you teamed up with the right people at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Right. And I've always told any team I've made, or like the entire combat, like warfare, can be summed up in one phrase. It would be at the right place at the right time with the right equipment.
Yep.
And then I would add more to that, with the right dudes.
Yeah.
And that's all that you need to be successful.
That's what it was.
Warfare or anything. It's like, if you're teamed up. But a lot of people, if you're listening to your bitch voice, if you're wondering why the jobs that you get won't work, if your finger is pointed outward like this, that's probably why this shit doesn't work. So stop pointing fingers and start getting in the thumb business. That's how you do it. And so I realized I missed probably 2 or 3 like major opportunities where I was doing this, and I could have gotten in with similar groups or similar opportunities that would have uncovered more of my identity, uncovered more of my skill sets and power. And like, I was too busy blaming, and I wasn't pointing the blame where it needs to be, which is here. So
that's the natural and easy thing to do.
It is. And so a lot of people do this, and this, if you're blaming other people, you will never find your authentic self, because it has to be looked within. You have to rack yourself and torment your mind every day. Like, what am I deficient in? Where do I suck? What can I do? How can I be more humble? How can I come to grips with my mistakes? How can I have hard conversations with people? How can I formulate an apology to my wife or to my family or to somebody that I've done wrong to, instead of doing this? Well, and last episode, I was kind of doing this to my family. I still do. I'm back and forth.
I remember that.
I'm like I was pointing at the camera, yeah. But yeah, back and forth. But I've recently had some conversations with my dad. I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, I'm deficient in these ways. I apologize. My actions have led to these conversations and this thing and that. And so, but then, I'll have a bad day and I'll be like, but yeah, man, my family just needs to shape. If only they would just shape up or be how I want them. I'm like basically doing to them now what my family did to me as a teenager. Like, you need to be this way and you need to be that way. And I'm kind of doing the same thing. You need to think like me, and you need to wake up, and you need to be healthier and suck it up. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, I just be quiet. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to shut up now. 'Cause it's flipped. Like, now I'm doing it. It's out of love too. And so I can assume that they did that to me out of love, but you have to catch yourself. And I wasn't able to do that for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years of my life until I teamed up with you guys. And that's what we had to bring was this. It's like, well, what am I doing deficient? You know, but that's so cool. So you team up with some like-minded man. It's funny how you wrote that down. You created that. You manifested it. You were like, I am writing this goal to seek out and find opportunity that will enhance me in this way. I need to be around strong men that have goals, that have vision, and then boom, falls in your lap.
Within a week.
That's why you guys are tearing up, because that synchronicity.
Yeah. You know, there's just a lot of synchronicity, and that's a word that's probably one of Jefferson's favorite words, synchronicity.
Yeah, you could tell when Jefferson learns a new word too, because he uses it a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, he said that the entire time I worked there too.
Yep. And you know, I found that the more that I feel like I'm in tune, and it even happened today. It happened today within our recruiting department. The more that I'm in tune with my authentic self and the things that I need to do in terms of things for me, but also things that make me a better person. Like, just more I'm aligned with what it is I need to be doing. The more intuition I have, the more synchronicity that I have.
Yeah, more opportunity.
And, you know, there's a situation today where I was in a meeting, and it just came to me, just intuitively, man, I need to edify this guy. I need to put this guy on a pedestal, because we've had some complications, some things, some miscommunications, some disorganization, whatever it is. And I just felt like I needed to just praise him. And so I did. And then after that, I had called his direct supervisor, and because I also, while I was praising him, I had the idea that we should write a thank you card from not only myself, but Jefferson and his direct supervisor as well. And the dude loves to golf, and we should get him some golf balls.
Oh, damn.
And then she told me, she was like, you know, I actually had a conversation with him. She was like, we haven't even had time. Like, I wouldn't even have had time to call you and prompt you on what you just did. But he told me right before that meeting, I was on a call with him, and he told me that he's feeling underappreciated, that he had the best month ever in July. Nobody said a damn word. It's always, what are you doing wrong? You're doing this. You need to do this. You need to do that. And he just would like to feel some appreciation.
And then boom.
And
your intuition fulfilled that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, to the fullest, to where, like, I almost made him uncomfortable, the way that I was like, dude. And it wasn't just like his adaptability and, you know, the resourcefulness and how that's going to correlate to his success in the future, whether with whatever opportunities he has, both professionally and personally. And then I was like, bro, you need to start making your phone calls on FaceTime because your hair looks so good, dog. Like, I love your hair. Like, and he was just like, I hate my hair. But like, bro, it looks good.
It's and just a weapon, bro. Use it.
Yeah, you know.
That's crazy. So also, too, a couple episodes ago, we pulled up your human design, and you're a projector. Is that right, Mel? Is a projector, which is rare. It's rarer than most. And then that's if you're in that groove and you're playing to your skills and everything that you're suited to do in this life, there's just this like resonance about you, you know? And what's cool is you have enabled that for me as well. There was times where I was feeling underappreciated, and it doesn't take much for me to feel appreciated. Just a little head nod to me in a meeting, or a little like, hey, you know, shout out to that guy or Blake or whatever, or acknowledging that I had a hand in something just briefly, like that'll gas me up for a while. And so you were masterful at that stuff, dude, because you're in your authentic identity. You're in your groove. You're in your jive. And it feels like, too, you've opened up to me, like, as with what happens with these groups of strong people, you start going. And as a group, what makes it harder is that as a group, you have to be cognizant of this energy. And when I was with JKR, sometimes that energy would start dividing us, and then we would catch it and we'd go, whoa, 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 bring it back. And we stop pointing fingers, and we started doing this and taking full accountability for your actions, and then assuming that everyone's doing everything with best intentions.
Yep. Code of conduct.
Then that power comes back, dude, and then we would see it. The metric that we used was revenue. That's a great indicator because everybody's winning, and it's the way we feed our families, and it's awesome. So It's so true what you're saying, dude. I'm really glad we're pounded on this, because this is the point of the podcast. It's not about waking up at 4 a.m. and eating raw eggs and, doing push-ups at the same time. Like you're running 7 miles while you do push-ups somehow. I don't know how, but that's what Goggins does or something. Somebody's doing that.
He does pull-ups and runs.
Yeah, he's running and he's doing pull-ups. But like, it's not about that. You see all that. So the satirical posts, all the satire on the line, it's just like, I wake up and I think about it and I make 40K and then I cook, and then I make some coffee and then I buy a company, like it's not about those things. Those are like little tools you can use. And those are like kind of the nitty gritty.
Well, it's because motivation is fleeting. So your discipline is what, because you'll be motivated, you'll be non-motivated. Your discipline is what allows you to complete the things you need to complete.
Yes. And I was very disciplined in the military. But I don't think I was like in line or like in alignment with myself. And that's okay. It's okay to be out of alignment or serve a cause that's greater for you, greater than, yourself, or do something. But if you're cognizant of these things, you're like, okay, I'm in the military, but I know exactly who I am and how I can best place myself in this team or this group. But I wasn't doing that. I wasn't even thinking of that. I was just thinking like, how can I look good all the time? How can I get results so I can get praise and validation, and so I can appear to be this type of person that in this field, like in the Marine Corps infantry or in a contractor team, it's like, how can I be the guy with the answers? I was chasing it for ego. I was chasing it. So I was out of alignment, dude. I was not. It was noble cause. It was a cause bigger than myself, and I was disciplined in the craft and I was disciplined in stuff, but I was like, looking back at it, I was like kind of miserable because I was chasing something fleeting, and I was finding out a lot about myself, but I wasn't doing anything with that information. I wasn't in alignment with my authentic self. So I think that's such a cool thing, dude, where you were, because for those of you that don't know, JKR Windows is a Southern Utah-based company, and they've exploded under Jefferson's leadership. And also, I think he would say, so I hope he doesn't, he would totally agree with this, but your leadership as well in the sales department, you guys are like two peas in a pod sometimes, but you complement each other in ways that you're deficit. And it's been cool to see you guys grow and to be under your tutelage. And I could just focus on creating a life that's enabled this. Mm-hmm. Dude, like being my authentic self and watching Mallory be her authentic self and lean into her skills as an audio engineer and lean into this void of unknown. Because we're doing a business model that like not many people do. Like not many people can produce 7 podcasts for other people, capture their vision, and maintain the crazy amount of constant work that is this. That is taking a podcast and turning it into tiny little clips and maximizing that podcast into every platform out there. And so watching Mallory do that too, is she's becoming her authentic self. We're growing together and we're at each other's throats all the time about business, but our relationship is fantastic. When we can stop and breathe, and we have some ups and downs, and just like any business owner. And, it's just cool. We're tapping into that alignment of who we are, what our strengths are. That doesn't mean you just stay. Like if I'm this certain way, that's not an excuse for me not to stretch myself and get what needs doing done. I hate that how people kind of limit themselves. How many times have you heard a girl say like, well, I'm a Pisces, or I'm a Cancer, and I'm this, so I can't.
Just in my industry, say if you're trying to recruit a friend, I can never knock doors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we place these little barriers.
Why not?
Why not?
You can go out and make more money than you've ever made. And, there's a disconnect because people may associate it with just like, oh, you're bugging people. Yeah. It's like, I'm out here providing a unique opportunity to provide you with something that is life changing. Yeah. Like, you're going to be more comfortable. You're going to be more efficient in your home. You're going to have a facelift to your home. You're going to get all the services, all the guarantees, everything to back up any concern that you ever had. And by the way, your home's going to look way better. And the value proposition, it's second to none.
It is. Even if you're recruiting or,
Yeah.
if you're convincing a girl to go out with you, it's the value proposition. I can provide this for you, and I can give you this kind of lifestyle, and you want a Louis Vuitton handbag and a Lambo. Like, people pitch that stuff.
Yeah.
Some girls want it, some people don't. But
to fast forward, I guess, Jefferson had painted the picture, I think, maybe even in the interview, maybe not, maybe first meeting, of this regional director position.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's me.
That's where I'm going to be.
And
you got it.
I got it,
And the company's growing, man. It's cool to see.
Yeah.
So we'll have
breaking
to have
records.
Jefferson on.
We break a lot of records, pretty consistently.
Yeah.
And, and I've never led with the money that I want to make. I've always led with the impact and trying to develop people and trying to bring people in.
Yeah, the money's the byproduct.
It's definitely a byproduct. And, there's been times where maybe what I was doing didn't make sense in that moment. But, I'm confident in the vision I have for things and seeing past my nose.
Yeah.
Because, maybe in those moments, if I were somewhere else, I would be like, no, this doesn't make sense. But I'm like, this is what I'm working towards. This is what it's going to be. And I'm willing to put in the work right now and maybe take a step back in my income to develop what the need is for this position and to fulfill this role. And every single time I've done that, it has paid off really good.
Yeah.
I'm, at this point, multiple six figures. It's like, okay, but it's the value I put on myself. So I know I'm much more capable than making $300,000-$400,000 a year.
Right.
All transparency, that's about where I'm at. It's good money. But I'm just going to keep doing what I got to do. And I have a vision that I've casted, and it's definitely going to turn out more than what it is now. As this podcast develops and time goes by, some more clarity will be provided there. However, I've been provided a tremendous platform in which I can learn and I can be associated with, not only strong men, strong women as well. Been able to be exposed to different, very successful people, whether they're a consultant, whether it's a networking event, whatever it is. And, it just being intentional.
Yeah.
Right. Get around a group of strong oriented men, group of strong goal oriented men, which is, I've diversified a little bit since then because I don't know if Alex Hall will ever watch this podcast. She's Brandon Hall's wife.
Yeah.
We had a lot of one-on-ones in some consulting settings, and she provided a huge impact for me as well in terms of just kind of what I'm capable of and things that I need to work on and casting a vision. And, she's had my back and circumstances that otherwise wouldn't want to be in. But, assuming best intentions is always a very important thing because you may think someone is doing something some way, but just ask some questions and get some clarity and unpack it. And maybe those intentions aren't what you expected. She's really had my back in situations like that.
It's weird how it works. Like, for you to find your authenticity, that's my dog chiming in there. Hey, bud, out there protecting the house.
White wolf.
The white wolf. Yeah. So to find your authenticity though, like you have to be around a lot of like-minded people. Well, I don't know how to put that thought yet. I'll put a pin in that.
Yeah. So the way I view it, it's like, okay, so try to put yourself in a position to where you're the low man on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And build yourself up till you're the top dog. Once you reach that point of being the top dog, you got to find a new group.
New circle.
Become the lowest man on the totem pole until you can level yourself up to where you're the top dog, and then you got to find another group.
Yep.
You're the the average of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So if you're going to be around a bunch of drug addicts, you're probably going to be a drug addict. Party guys, you're going to be a party guy. Millionaires, you're going to be a millionaire. Billionaires, you're going to be a billionaire. And money's not everything. I very much believe money's a byproduct of all the... You've heard me say, my paycheck has always been a direct result of the amount of personal development that I'm doing.
Yeah,
and
it's a metric.
It's a metric, and it doesn't necessarily mean, to your point, that you got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you got to eat raw liver or whatever it is. If that's what you do, I fucking give you all the respect in the world, because that shit's not easy.
Yeah.
However, when you're getting back to being what your authentic self is and understanding who you are and what you need to work on to develop yourself, even just to as kind of like a parallel within sales, when you're pointing the finger, right? Anytime that I've ever I've been fortunate enough to never have a sales slump. Maybe
I was going to say that when we were eating.
Yeah.
Because you'll tell me about somebody, and I'll ask about somebody that's, in the company, and like, oh, they're kind of having a slump right now. It's been like 2 months. They haven't had a sale. I'm like, what? And I guess what you define as a slump, right? Maybe, I've had maybe 2 weeks total where my sales didn't go where I wanted them to go. But I had some slumps where I was dealing and unpacking some PTSD while I was like sick with something.
Mm-hmm.
But like performance wise, if I'm on the job, like I've never had a performance slump.
Yeah, performance slump, because I've had shit. I mean, I've gone through severe, and we haven't even really got into that part of my story.
I think we saved that.
Yeah, no, that's a whole episode.
That's a whole episode
unto itself.
Your whole health journey.
Yeah,
so I'd like to save that one.
But I've just know that I've closed deals and went directly to the emergency room. I've gotten out of the hospital and been feeling pretty bad.
I remember picking you up in the Las Vegas hospital.
Yep, going, and to the point where like, can this guy even come back to work? And I'll go fucking have a hat trick in a day, close 3 deals.
Yeah.
And I remember the one guy, it was the last deal I was closing for the day. He's like, man, we got to wrap this up. I don't want you dying at my kitchen table. Because that's what I looked like, And I think it really helped me going through that in sales. It really helped me understand the process of sales and understanding like just the psychology and everything it takes to lead up to closing the deal, because I had to get masterful of that to overcome the fact that I didn't have a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot that people rely on with their sales, like their sales ability or close ability or whatever. And when you're a couple ticks down, your patience is gone. Yeah. Your enthusiasm is gone. Well guess what? You better fucking get really fucking good at the process to be able to still execute what it is.
It's called performance on demand.
Performance on demand.
If you're a pro, you'll sell somebody on your deathbed.
Yep.
You'll close a deal and then walk into the ER room. That's basically what you're saying.
I've
anytime, any place, any mood, no matter whether you got food in your belly or not.
Yep.
If you overate, overslept, you overate, underate, or you overslept or underslept. Like, it doesn't matter. It's performance on demand. You're going to be at the right place at the right time, with the right attitude, with the right preparation. That's a pro.
Yep.
Like Michael Jordan playing in the NBA Finals, winning championships on the flu game. That's a pro.
It's a pro.
And like you see, like I think I remember people that debate whether LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan. First of all, go bang your head against the wall. Like, do you know what the most obvious answer is? Like, I don't know. I've never seen LeBron James have a flu game.
Well, maybe it's because people are biased, because it's like, well, I grew up in the Michael Jordan era. He's the best. Well, I grew up in the LeBron era. He's the best.
Numbers don't lie.
Well, championships, that's for sure. But, just an overall tenacity. There might be a finals or two where LeBron James has that fucking look on his face. Jordan had that look in practice.
Oh, yeah, preseason game.
Did you watch fucking...
he's just chewing his gum.
Yeah, or like what it is. I forgot what it was. The series he had on Netflix. And he's in practice, and he's just like, fuck. And like...
And even Kobe said the same thing. He was interviewed one time, and it's like, I can't remember. They offered him a spectrum, like whether you're like if you're so focused on if you're focused on winning or you're focused on not losing. And he's like, I don't think of either. I'm right in the middle. He's like, I just play the best game I can possibly play.
Yeah.
Like everything else doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He takes himself like out of the pressure, out of the moment, and he's just hyper focusing on the task at hand. So everyone's trying to distract him as he tries to hit that free throw or buzzer beater. It's just like
hitting a free throw
day.
with the torn Achilles.
Yeah.
Or they're like, you're ahead. I forgot what it was, like 3-1 or whatever it was, or 3-0 or whatever. And he's just like, you don't seem like you're satisfied. He's like, what's there to be satisfied about?
Yeah.
Have we won?
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Mamba mentality, man.
Mamba mentality.
But I guess to tie a couple things up, now I've been fortunate enough not to really have a sales slump. And, because I am a professional in every regard of what it takes to be a salesman, there's a difference between selling and closing. I can sell. I can fucking close. Yeah. And you got to know the difference, because when it's time to close, you're not selling shit.
Yeah.
Do not try to resell. You close that fucking thing. You give the option that makes sense. That doesn't make sense. Okay. Unpack whatever's going on. Transition to the next option. Shut the fuck up. Sit there for 15 minutes if you got to sit there for 15 minutes in silence, but shut the fuck up.
At the closing table, whoever talks first loses.
Yep. I love that. I relish those awkward moments when they're just stewing and they're looking at each other. What do you think? Well, I mean, do you like it? Yeah. Do you want it? Yeah. And I'm like thinking these same things. I'm like, okay, she likes it. Yeah. Okay. Well, you don't want it. Yeah. Does it make sense? But don't. But
you're
say
just
shit.
Sitting there like a gargoyle.
Don't say shit. Yeah. Dude, I'll just super like, just relax. I'm looking at the shit on their walls. I'm just like,
It's funny. This same passion you're talking about, that same like commitment to the close. Mal, she'll see that come out in our dealings. And in my leadership style too, I've had to adapt, but I'm very like, in the name of success and making someone else succeed, I am critical in the nicest way I know how. I'm usually critical, because that's just how the military is. It's like, hey, what's there to celebrate? Like, we could have done this, and this better. Mm-hmm. Let's do better next time, kind of a thing. And so sometimes Mal will see that passion come out. That's what happened the other day, and I don't have time to like prep someone new into sales about how this is going to be, because every scenario is so different. So she'll see a scenario pop up that she has no idea about, and then afterwards I'm like, damn it, and I'm just expressing that passion, that frustration I have. I'm like, like that one scenario that I could not foresee happened, because even if you're a pro, that still happens, and you'll be at the closing table, and what I think my closing ratio was 80% for a large portion of my time there, which is high.
You're a good closer, bud.
Every closer we have that's been under your tutelage, just at that company, has been high 60s, 70s closing for 60. High ticket deals, $20,000 to $50,000 deals in suburb neighborhoods, during recessions, during COVID.
First day knocking doors.
Yeah, you were all COVID.
March 13th, 2020.
Your whole career.
I learned how to knock doors during a pandemic, and I knew if I could be successful through that,
sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit. But I
manifest that way.
I haven't gotten back to my point on my slumps or lack thereof. It's because it's not the finger pointed out, well, hey, it's the neighborhood. Hey, it's the credit fills. Hey, it was a one-legger.
It's the COVID. It's everything.
You can always point at it, but I've always. And nobody ever told me to do it. So I'm very fortunate that just like there's a couple characteristics that I was just born with that allow me to succeed in maybe situations where other people wouldn't. Because I've just always been like, okay, if I'm not closing deals, it's never the customer. Mm-hmm. It's never the circumstance. I could have 5 credit fails in a row. That has nothing to do with me. But it's like, okay, well, what? Like I said earlier, my paycheck is a direct reflection of the personal development habits that I'm doing. So am I reading like I should? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I haven't been reading last week. Okay.
Am I working out? Am I eating right?
Yeah. Am I writing my goals down like I normally do? No.
Am I sharpening my axe or my mind? Am I reading?
Exactly.
Am I writing?
Yep.
Am I doing? I was just talking about that on our content podcast. Is like a lot of people are focused on their podcast where they want to get the podcast better, or their views will dip or something, and so they're like, oh, we need to change stuff, and they do this. Oh, it's the logo. Oh, it's the color. Oh, it's the thumbnail. Oh, it's the title and the description, and like all of those are valid things that can impact the algorithm and views. So they need to be addressed and make sure they're optimized.
Yeah.
But they never do this. Oh, maybe I could stutter less, or maybe
Say
I could
less.
get rid of my ums and uhs.
Be
maybe,
more interesting.
yeah, maybe I could talk about a different topic, or maybe I could extract more energy out of the guest. Maybe I could be a better podcast host. Yeah, maybe I could come prepared to the podcast with questions instead of winging it every time. So there's a lot of that going on. So people are very quick, and they get in this like endless cycle of like, oh, if something's not working, we got to change something. But that's the wrong verbiage. It's like, something's not working. How can I get better?
Yep.
Right, what can I do more?
Get so fucking good at your fundamentals. So fucking good that it's just second nature at the basics.
Yeah.
The basics. Because you want to change, you want to change, you want to change. Let's try this. Let's throw shit at the wall. Figure out whatever the fucking basics are and get so good at it that it's second nature. It's just like a sports team. You learn a basic playbook, and then you might add a trick play.
Yeah, you always go, and even Jefferson preaches that if you're not having luck on the doors, or it's just not going your way, go back to your script.
Yeah.
And if someone's been doing it a long time and they feel like, I got this is the thing, it's the hardest thing in the world for them to just go back and read the script and like stick to the script. It's like, that's your baseline. That's your fundamental. Right. And like a lot of analogy, I like military analogies, go figure. But the analogy I always talk about, the difference between a regular Army infantry or Marine Corps infantry versus a special forces operator is their mastery of the fundamentals. That's it. Mastery of the fundamentals. You know, and there's a lot of differences too we could get into, but that's really what it is. They're just masters of the basics. Over and over and over again. It's second nature for them. And when there's a problem, they go back to basics. And if they need to change an SOP, they will, but it's usually them. Why did this fail? Well, my mastery of this basic of land navigation caused us to be out of place, and we couldn't get to second squad in time, and they had a casualty because we couldn't reinforce their flank, right? Like stuff like that. It's always back to the basics. It's always back with the thumbs. What can I do?
And that's the ultimate consequence, life.
Yeah, dude, that's why if you're going to, I would recommend one person if you're starting, if you really want to take accountability for your life right now in the modern times, I would go with Jocko Willink if you want to like get into accountability and get into your life and understand where you're failing and get better. It's that extreme ownership.
Yep.
Own everything, every aspect of your life. And this is where I still struggle, because sometimes it'll translate for me in the professional space, but then it doesn't translate for me at home when I'm sitting with the people I love in the living room, you know? So it should be applied in every area of your life as well. And that will help you be a better pro.
Yeah.
You know? And
that's something that, you know, I get a lot of praise because people are like, man, you've gone through a disease and you still did your thing. You've gone through like divorce or whatever hard thing you were going through, and you were able just to leave your bags at the door and come in and fucking work. Like, you're the shit, bro. And I'm like, give me praise when I can leave my work bags at the door and go home and execute for my family.
Yeah, that's the easy part, right? Is if you've, like, I think a lot of salesmen have that down. They can leave their baggage at the door and go sell. It's almost like they've become so comfortable in that identity of themselves, they forget to take off the work hat and take off the work mask that you do need. Because like I need to be a different person in business than I need slightly. I just need the different disciplines and stuff. I don't really change who I am necessarily, but the tactics and the tenacity I bring home are way different.
Doesn't translate.
Especially in a marriage.
Yeah.
Right? And
well, like
my
wife, she's going to be in Salt Lake for the next week, you know, and fuck, man, we love each other, and it's hard to spend a week away from each other.
Because, you were just gone, and you came back, and now she's leaving.
Yeah, and so, well, no, she came up there with me.
Oh, okay, cool.
But, you know, I had to go into work, do some things, and then just go pick her up from the Airbnb as we were checking out and go drop her off at her sister's and come back. You know, and I'm in full work mode still, like.
It's hard to switch back.
But it's like, man, this is the last, this 30 minutes right here. This is the last 30 minutes I'm going to have with her for the week. And don't look at my text messages. Don't look at my team chat. Don't look at the calendar to see which deals are closed. Don't think about the things that I need to do today. Don't think about what I got to talk about, the conversations I got to have when I come back. Yeah. Just be present in the moment for this 30 minutes and just give her every bit of attention that I can and let all that shit go. Because if I just carry about because there's times like, I think yesterday I came home to eat lunch. Or I came back to the Airbnb to eat lunch real quick, just like as fast as I could gobble it down and left. And I'm thinking about work the whole time, and I'm kind of stressed. And by the time I left, you could just tell there was just a little bit of tension. Oh. You know,
like she may have had some expectations, right? Like, oh, Jared's coming home, and I get to be wife.
Yeah,
I get to be with my husband for a little bit, and then she comes home and she doesn't get a husband; she gets regional director.
Yeah. And
you're like, yeah, do this, do that. I got to get out of here. Bam.
Yeah, that's what she got.
And that's what I was doing to Mal on even though I was a week on traveling with the sales team, and then I was a week home. We ran a business here, and Mal was running it by herself, doing everything. And so I was coming home and be like, shout out to Mal. We got to get her mic'd up at least.
Straight milk on that shit, dog.
Straight milk. She coined that. But anyway, there was a disconnect because she would need me as professional Blake still when I'm trying to like defuse from salesman Blake, and then every time she was able to defuse, I was like either salesman Blake or like podcast Blake. Like so trying to find I guess balance is the wrong term, but being able to switch in and out or turn things off and on, I think that's a whole nother, we could do a whole nother series on that. But.
Yeah. Well, even just energy, because it's like, maybe you're having like 15 minutes where you're just like, motherfucker. Yeah. And all the while she's like trying to be like, you know, it's all good. And like trying to like up her energy to compensate for your lack of energy to get you to come out of it. Yeah. And by the time you come out of it, she's like
drained.
And now she's in that the energy's switched.
Yeah.
That happens to me all the time, and I
out of alignment with each other,
and I notice it, and I'm like, motherfucker, this happened again. Okay, when next time I'm feeling like that, I just got to get over it. Is like just get over it and understand what she's trying to do.
Yeah, or press pause on it
and match that energy that she's trying to give me, because she's doing it because she cares, and she's trying to uplift me, and I'm not allowing her to do it, and then my bad energy just transferred into her. Now I feel fine. Now I'm trying to, in 15 minutes, the roles reverse. Now I'm trying to uplift her.
Yeah.
And if I could just get out of my own way and understand what it is that she's doing, and be, in the moment and understand what's going on, and then just, it shouldn't take that 15 minutes. Just get the fuck over it, because it has nothing to do with her. She's doing everything she can to uplift you. You're not receptive to it, and then it drains her, but then you're fine, and now she's fucked. And it's like, man,
energy transfer.
I did it again.
Yeah. And it goes both ways, right? Like a spouse of anybody, like it doesn't matter if your wife's a CEO or she's a stay-at-home mom or whatever, or she's running a company with you like me and Mal. It's like, if both spouses are cognizant of this and they understand, and if you can work on your communication where I can say, hey, wifey, I love you. Just give me 5 minutes. I'm just decompressing this, or she'll simply ask me like, hey, what's wrong? Are you okay? And I'm like, instead of being like, oh, I'm fine, and like doing the man thing where I'm like, push it down. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm actually feeling a certain way about this and that and this and the other. And then she goes, oh, that's not even an issue because of this. And I'm like, oh man, good thing I communicated something to her, because I would have just been stressing, or that would have
turns out communication's good.
Yeah, it turns out. And so, it's a fun little thing to do. Me and Mal, when we're at each other's throats, we always come back to this moment, right, Mal, where we're like, man, we calm down, we're getting better at it. So the time that we're out of harmony is like decreasing. It used to be like, what, a couple days? We'd be like trying to fix it for a couple days, and we'd just be like stubborn. And now it's like maybe an hour. Yeah, we get it fixed, or we I come and say, hey, I'm sorry. I was feeling, I had some emotions. I was doing this thing, and I vent it out, and then letting women need to be heard, and they need to be like validated, right? Understand and understood, heard and understood, and it's way different. And so a scenario will rise up, and I'm used to teams where I'm like, push that shit down, push it away. We can't even let an ounce of negativity like cloud our vision for the future, because that's how dudes operate.
Yeah.
Because if one guy's just going off about, you know, man, this area sucks, or these clients are never going to buy, and all this shit.
Like, hey, that's not what this is about. We got to be positive, guys. And then you just
keep
transition.
Going. Yeah, you transition. You're like, hey, cut that shit out and let's move on. But with Mal, she just needs to say it out loud for what? As long as you go, like 20, 30 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever. And so I've been able to just to like hold my tongue and be like, okay, she just needs to be understood. And so instead of jumping down her throat like I would with a guy, I'm like, hey, stow that shit, private fuck up. Yeah, you get that machine gun over here, you
being a little bitch right now.
Yeah, you shut the fuck up. Right? Because lives are at stake, and it's dudes, and like, I don't know, it's just different. And so I've never been able to master that, and I still haven't mastered it, but I've gotten way better at it. This is like the best relationship I've had. Look what we've been able to build. Yeah. You know, running 7 podcasts.
Yeah, no, I hold you guys up here.
Thanks, man. It doesn't feel like that, you know, because we're in the cage match of our life right now. We're clawing and scratching, and you know, and
you guys can see the light though, right?
Oh, totally.
It's there, light at the end of the tunnel.
What kind of light do we have going?
Barely a flicker.
Yeah, but it's bright though. It's brighter. It's brighter than that.
It's very bright.
Especially after today, right? We've had some winds this week.
No, it's very bright.
Yeah,
and I know
every morning stoked.
Yeah, Mal's. You can tell she's in a good mood when she's. She used to be a dancer in high school, so she's doing like, what do you call them, pirouettes or?
Oh, really?
900 dark slides around the house. I don't know, but yeah, she's singing and dancing the songs and playing music. And I'm like,
I saw how your guys' eyes lit up when I came in. Just kidding.
Oh yeah, dude, we look forward to this, man.
I do too, man.
We're just hanging out in the garage, smoking.
I don't know if it was recorded earlier, but it's really awesome for me because I consider this productive. Right. Yeah. You know, we're building a podcast, and the idea behind it, you know, if money comes from it, if opportunities come from it, great. But the impact, like,
dude. I think we agreed before we even started, if we can make an impact on one person's life. Yeah. And this is cheesy because you hear like these billionaires, if I can just change one person's life, and it's like Steve Jobs. Yeah. Fucking created like Apple. Yeah. It's like, if I can just impact the world. But it's that same mentality. If we can just benefit someone, and also if nobody gives a shit about this podcast, and we just have a median where we can just get our thoughts out and express, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, and that's what it is, man. Like I can relax. I mean, I just worked 40 hours in the last 3 days, and you know, it was a grind, and it wasn't just selling. It was, you know, I'm involved in a million different things. And trying to manage everything I'm involved with, having difficult conversations, closing deals, helping people close deals, listening to recordings,
giving energy to people,
and
then you walk in our door, and I hand you a freaking steak.
A steak?
Yeah, like fresh cooked, right off the grill.
What was it? What kind of tea is that? Some tea?
Some peach tea. That's compliments of Mal.
A cigar.
I've been liking it. Yeah, premium Cuban cigar.
Yeah, shit.
And some whiskey.
And fine cheeses.
Stanky ass aged cheese, baby.
Some doggies.
Some dogs. Yeah, it's just a good. I think what we're really walking into our stride right now is making a rhythm and an energy in our household, which just so happens to be our studio. We're aiming to have every single inch of this house, you know, remodeled or decorated in such a way that everything can be a studio. Because we have this studio cart here. I don't know if you can see on Jared, but there's the Pelican cases above you right there. Barely. But those Pelican cases, I've got it down. I'm still refining it, but we're going to be basically selling those as a complete podcast studio that you open up. It's got a monitor on the lid. Mm-hmm. Basically, you open the box up, plug in power, plug in your mics and cameras, and you go. So I can take that on the road. It's a carry-on size. So imagine having a carry-on that is an entire podcast studio.
You could podcast on the plane.
Oh, dude, we're totally doing it.
They got snakes on the plane.
Snakes on the plane. We got
podcasts on a plane.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson's going to come in on that podcast. It's called Podcast on a Plane.
And he'll be like, say what again?
Get these motherfucking podcasts off this planet. But we're actually doing that because a client has secured us a position to go podcast at some conventions. So we're going to like 8 events this year. We got to be able to travel and put up a podcast on the go and still maintain quality. And I'm like thinking, holy shit, dude, we could sell these.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that could benefit from a mobile podcast studio that just is a suitcase size.
Yeah.
Just pop it
I
up
love
like
that.
you're going to hack into the NSA while you support the secret agent Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
We're in the system. Watch out, Tom.
It includes a picture of Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
And now I don't really have a segue to it, but something that I wanted to touch base on, not only was I super intentional about getting on the path for what I needed professionally, right? Which did translate to a lot of personal needs as well. And, I went through a lot with my second marriage, and I have great kids from it. I love my children, and I also learned a lot in terms of what it is that I don't want, what it is that I do want, and what the standards are for myself and what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
For, what a future wife would be at that time.
Dude, that's a great point. With finding your authentic self, it's not just finding out what you are, it's finding out what you are not.
Exactly.
That's equally productive.
And
if you're like, that's not me.
Yeah.
100% that's not me, then
And, I got great children out of it, and I love them to the end of the world, and they're on my heart constantly. But I also, like I said, I learned really what it is that I need from a mate, what I need from a partner. And what it led to was me really spending time and understanding what I don't want, what I do want, who I am, what I stand for, what is authentic to me. And I did the same thing, man. I wrote down what it is I'm looking for. I wrote down 5 characteristics and what I'm looking for in a woman.
And then it walked into your life in the form of?
Within a week.
Miss Ecuador.
Gisela.
We should have, we should get our wives on here too. That'd be cool.
But yeah, it was like, the thing was, she checked every box, and then she's checked boxes I didn't even know that I've had since.
You're like, what? This is a box I had? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
She's checked boxes I didn't even know that I've had since. And, she has such a unique story in terms of where she came from. She was born in Ecuador. She grew up in Ecuador. She went to college there. She had a career there. She has her family there. But she's also always known that she's always meant for so much more, and what her potential is, and what her company or her country could provide her for. There was a disconnect. She's just capable of so much with the person that she is, the quality of an individual that she is, and she just knew that there was a place where, and it's hard to be away from your family and everything, but because it's one thing to fucking come across the border, it's another thing to do it the right way. And
good for her, man.
I mean, just the money that she had to, because they have American dollars there, and the dollar, say in Colombia, the American dollar is worth twice as much. In Ecuador, the American dollar is worth about maybe 40% of what it is in Ecuador. So if you buy $1,000 laptop here, it's going to be fucking like $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 there, and clothes and just everything. So, there was a lot that she had to do to get here, and it's like, in the process, she was also able to invest into a business for her dad. She was also able to invest into her sister, not only her coming, but her sister too. She was able to loan a friend money and still come with everything she needs. She still has savings. She freaking has investment accounts, and she's got like all these things teed up. She's got her degree. Like, she is like put together, and it's amazing because it's like, I get better advice from her than I do like some of the consultants, if not all the consultants that we've ever paid. over $10,000 a month to have.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just kind of let her know what I'm dealing with. And she's like, okay, well, this is how, that's business, right? There's going to be people like this. There's going to be people like that. And what you need to do is operate like this, because you can't expect people to do that. You have to have trust, but at the same time, you can't just expect that everybody's going to have your best interest in mind, or just whatever it is, man. Like, she gives me the business, and it's like, and not only professionally, like personally, she's like, look, I know you got a lot going on and you're busy and stuff, but the way that you just talked to that person, that wasn't okay. Did you notice how I was trying to like be nice to them afterward and stuff to kind of smooth that over? Like, yeah, dude. Like I said, everything, every quality I was looking for and things I didn't even know that I needed. Like she's got them.
That's awesome, dude.